Welcome. This is Newsfile. It's your most authoritative news analysis platform, and I'm your host, Samson Ladi Anyanini. And this morning, we bring you everything you need to know about the Agyapa Mineral Royalties Deal. The government intends to get money today and use future mineral royalties to pay. There's been a lot of talk about it. Great deal of misinformation, confusion, misunderstanding. We will break all of it down this morning here on Newsfile. You leave this show with a full understanding of what the deal is and is not. So stay with us. It's a single topic show. The Agyapa Royalties Deal. Good or bad? Is Ghana being shortchanged? We'll give you all of that in just a short while. And in 1 minute, I'd like to ask, in respect of the RTI, whether or not the government, the president, want to take credit for it. After 2 decades of crusade and pressure to have the RTI passed, it was eventually passed. The only law that was passed and its implementation suspended for 1 year so that we will prepare. The year came upon us in January of this year, and we're not ready. The offices that are supposed to be set up, the body that is supposed to be set up to help the implementation of the act is still not set up. We get a lot of excuses. Now, guess what? People are still having to go to court when the purpose of the law was to avoid people having to go to court and spend. The Electoral Commission earlier very shamefully denied a member of parliament, a representative of the people, procurement information, public information. The person had to go to court, and the court compelled the Electoral Commission to give the information. We know many have made applications that are being denied. The Media Foundation for West Africa has just disclosed to us this week. It made an application to the NCA asking for the list of radio stations that are shut down, among others. Guess what? They are being told to pay 2,000 Ghana cedis to access that basic public information. The NCA claims that it will do some research to get the information, and this cost is even considerate. It is bad to say that the courts have even ordered as much as 1,000 and 1,005 in the circumstances. But what we need to know is that the law actually says it is not every information that one must pay for the reproduction. Information that is in the public interest, among others, is supposed to be given free of charge. Mr. President, Information Ministry, government, collective, if you want to take credit for the RTI, you need to begin to speak and tell agencies, departments, and ministries that are acting in such bad faith in respect of honoring the basic right of the citizens. Speak to them. Your silence is deafening, and it doesn't help. They are misconducting themselves by denying people information, and the institution you are supposed to set up to deal with those issues is still not set up. Please speak publicly and discourage this behavior. Some have applied for information, and they have been told all sorts of stories. This is my take. I'm asking, Mr. President, government, do you want to take credit for the RTI, which is the most important corruption legislation? Thank you. That's by way of my take. Now, we are going to host the best of experts that you can have to discuss the matter of the Agyapa Royalties Deal. Bright Simmons will join us. Bright Simmons of MPED degree and honorary executive of Imani Africa. Charles Edubuahing who is the Deputy Finance Minister, who is a man on this job, will also be with us. We will have Abdul Malik Kubako, Editor-in-Chief of the New Crusading Guide. His documents are already here in the studio. And of course, there are a couple others that are joining us on the discussion, including Steve Manteo. You know that they led CSOs, 12 of them, a dozen of them, raising several concerns, suggesting that this was an elite capture and that this was opaque and so intended to do something that is wrong. Something that they say actually under the Petroleum Revenue Management Administration in this country could never have been done. Did they get it wrong? Are they right? There are those who are talking about beneficiary interests, that the beneficiaries ought to be disclosed. Who are the beneficiaries? Are there any beneficiaries yet? We will bring you everything that they ought to be known. The Attorney General of the Republic also gave a number of advice. Once, twice, and a third time. And even at the third time, she was complaining about 7 different issues she had raised were still outstanding. That is, as recent as the 12th of August, were still outstanding. And she insisted, until those are dealt with, the deal was bad for Ghana. Now let's listen to a couple of things that have happened on this issue, and then our guest will come in, we'll start the discussion.
We take this opportunity to call on His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo to, 1, acknowledge that though the Minerals Income Investment Fund and its special purpose vehicle may be legal without public input, it fundamentally goes against his pact with the Ghanaian people, particularly the mining communities, to cede 20% of mineral royalties to develop the communities. 2, to suspend the implementation of the Mineral Income Investment Fund Act until all documents relating to the establishment of the special purpose vehicle and its beneficial owners have been disclosed. As concerned Ghanaians, we sought to assess the transaction documents on the Mineral Income Investment Fund Act Secretariat, only to discover that it has none. 3, establish a multi-stakeholder process to review all options to optimize the mineral royalties in order to secure risk-free revenue to the state. Gold royalty is the most certain revenues to the state. Even though commodity prices tend to be cyclical, gold has only oscillated within 20%, which makes it a more stable commodity than oil. And with oil losing demand growth to alternative fuels, gold is expected to continue to exhibit some stability as a source of revenue. 4, to recognize that by its current approach to the implementation of the Mineral Income Investment Fund Act, government may appear to be encouraging citizens to transact business in tax havens. Ours is a struggle against the elite capture of resources that commonly belong to all Ghanaians. And we call on every one of us, regardless of our political persuasion, to join hands in safeguarding the national interest.
If you build schools, if you build health infrastructure, how do you make profit to pay shareholders? You see the deception? Schools, social intervention like schools, like hospitals. Where do you make that profit to declare dividend? And why would investors around the world invest in an SPV whose job would be to do what government of Ghana does in terms of building schools? He stated at a press conference that these 12 mining companies, it brings in about $150 million. If you get $150 million per annum and you want to build schools, you want to build hospitals, wouldn't you better use the money? Why do you want to send the money abroad to a company established in a tax haven and then say that that company will then bring the money back to build hospitals and schools and expect to make profit from hospitals and schools in Ghana and then go back there and pay shareholders? What kind of a nonsense story is this? Look, my brother, we are all Ghanaians and we all want the betterment of this country. This ministry under this government is being extremely deceptive. They don't want to tell you the truth, that they are borrowing money and they will service that debt with our mineral royalties. That is what they are doing. But you see, they think that they are so clever that they can dribble all of us. Okay, if they will be ready, if they will build schools, go and check their incorporation. Go and check their incorporation. Is that their mandate? To build hospitals is not the mandate of Agyapa.
If you look at it, the mineral investment, mineral incomes investment fund, it's the entity established by law. So they, of course, will take, government owns, remember, 51% of this. And so government takes back what it gets and then does investment with it from our end.
Go and check the relationship agreement. We are giving them so much indemnity. In fact, there's even an indemnity agreement. We are even confirming that we'll deal with Agyapa at arm's length, and that when we give them the money, they will decide what to use the 75.6% of our royalties for. So this issue of schools, this issue of whatever, is a complete lie.
If even as individuals we're not allowed to hide our money in tax havens, why will government of Ghana mortgage our gold royalties to a private company in which we have 51% shares? Some shady individuals we don't know have taken 49% shares. On what basis did they take those shares? Agyapa is a very shady deal, and I'm saying if I become president, I will not respect that agreement. It is a theft of Ghanaians' royalties. It's against the money laundering rules, and if you even look at those who put the transaction together, they are people close to the president. Already almost $2 million have been paid to them. It looks like there's a certain impunity that has developed, and this president and his family and those around him think they can do anything and get away with it.
That from the, again, information that is coming out, which government is here to validate or to confirm, but which appears to be authentic because of the silence. When it comes to the fund managers, Ghana's ownership is 51%. It's not 100% as we are being, told in the case of the domiciled, companies. 49%.
How do you come by that information?
I say that is the information that is out.
Yeah, but government has come out to say that is not the case. They say
the fund managers.
I mean, yes.
No, we're not talking. We're talking about the Minerals Development Fund. We're talking about MIF itself, which are 100% government owned. That's what government has clarified. I'm not aware that they have come to clarify that the fund managers,
as in Agyapa.
No, the fund managers,
okay,
who are going to support, Agyapa in the transactions,
okay,
have, a 49% interest. I think it's important again.
They have 49% interest in Agyapa. Is that what you?
No, in any transaction that is done. Right. That's what fund managers do. So the point is that government has 51, so the beneficial owners for that 49. As I said, this is documents that are out, and I'm just flagging it as important, therefore, to come to Parliament, with this information so that I can put, these things to rest. So these are, other wrinkles, to this whole transaction.
So, in effect, what you want is more information concerning the whole agreement.
It is a law.
It's not as if
under our constitution.
So it is not as if government is engaged in wrongdoing, but what you want is more information.
Law. Remember our previous argument? I'm saying that is a law. That is not like the tax evasion avoidance.
Let me just refer to a letter from Attorney General, and then you understand the ECOSOC.
Yes.
This is 12 August. Tio, we refer to our various advice dated 1st April 2019, 28th May 2020, 22nd July 2020, and 5th August 2020, and the transaction advisors' comments dated 12 June 2020, 22nd July 2020, respectively, on the investment for the proposed monetization of Ghana's mineral royalties. What must I say? Now, this is the final document, because one leaky way, they are doing it for a purpose. Attorney General said, we have reviewed the latest letter under reference and the submitted draft agreements and know that our comments have been incorporated and changes effected to the draft agreements.
Which draft agreement went to Parliament?
Precisely.
You're welcome back. So you've heard several voices, and the matters that they raise, we will interrogate them. Former President John Mahama is talking about what he says they will not respect this deal if they should come to power in the December elections. Of course, the NDC MPs in Parliament already sounded this caution and warning in Parliament, I think on the 13th of August, was it? Yeah, when the issue was being debated and they staged the walkout. They said they didn't want to have anything to do with it because it was most unpatriotic and unconscionable. Conscionable? Is that a word the Attorney General had used? But is she still sticking to it? Then you heard also Seth Tekpe, who says cost to the country in this deal is much higher. How much? We'll get you all of that. John Jenapo, you heard earlier. And then Gabi Ochiridako yesterday, mounting a very, very, very strong defense, passionate defense, as documents came out revealing that the Attorney General had issues with it. It does appear that only a part of the documents were released, and that some documents that were later in time that appear to have okayed the agreement were not released. And so he got very angry about what he thought was deliberate, misleading information thrown out to the public for a certain propaganda benefit. Well, the CSOs, civil society organizations, that say this is opaque and smacks of elite capture, were led by Dr. Steve Manteyao. And Dr. Steve Manteyao, you have known him with the ISODEC, you have known him to be associated with the alliance of CSOs working on the extractive and anti-corruption and good governance sector of the country. All they had to say will interrogate them one by one, including what the government has been telling us through the Deputy Finance Minister, Charles Edubuahing. He should be here in a moment, and then we will commence our discussion. Meantime, this show is brought to you by Bank of Africa, strong as a group and close as a partner. MTN everywhere you go. Ashasi University, educating ethical and entrepreneurial leaders for Africa. Consolidated Bank Ghana, we stand with you. Duraplus, where Duraplus goes, water flows. We lead, we build home for you. Star Assurance, your solid partner. And Rehoboth Properties, they are the kindest sponsors of this program. So let's have your views also. We'll be sharing them if you have questions for the minister or any of the parties that's doing this discussion this morning. Let's have your questions. Remember, if you are tweeting, to tweet #Newsfile, and send all your questions in, and we will deal with them in due course. You're still here on Newsfile. This is your most authoritative news analysis platform. We'll be right back.
My response to that, and I've been asked that already, is that firstly, ALA happens to be the local partner for the English law firm that we're using on this transaction, White & Case. So they work hand in hand with them. So they came in with White & Case as their local partners. We're also using Bella, which is also another law firm. And the gentleman in question that was referred to happens to be a partner in ALA, but there are several other partners, and it's a partnership. These law firms are set up as partnerships. And in fact, the partner we're working with on this is another partner altogether, and not the gentleman in question. So really, we did not see any conflicts there at all. And to be honest, when you're working on such a transaction and you want to be listed on the London Stock Exchange, they're very particular and extremely diligent in their due diligence, even to the extent of looking at all your advisors, transaction advisors, to ensure that they're comfortable with them and are very and are clear that there are no conflicts whatsoever there as well. And also to deal with my good friend Kofi Osafo-Malfa in the selection process, we engaged as part of, when we started this in 2018, as part of the whole process, we also engaged a headhunting firm, and the firm is called Konferry, K-O-R-N-F-E-R-R-Y. They are based out of California. They are a global headhunting firm, and we asked them to help us identify and shortlist a candidate for the CEO position, for the CFO position for Agyapa, and also for the board. And they scoured the whole globe. We said our preference for the Ghanaian, for the CEO position, was that it should be a Ghanaian, and ideally also for the chairman of the board. That was the reason. It was just that. It just happened to be a coincidence that he happens to be somebody we know and happens to be a relative of somebody who is already in the government. I happen to also know him because we went to the same school. He was a year ahead of me in school. So, I mean, I don't think that was also a coincidence. It could have been anybody else. So, it was just about finding the right person for the job. But there were other people, Ghanaians, but most of them were actually just miners. They had worked in a mine and had, in mining engineers, had a lot of mining experience, but had very little finance experience, very little equity experience, very little private equity and investment experience. So that didn't work too well.
Our governments and our people get far less than what we deserve. We are placed at the bottom of the list of the beneficiaries of our own riches, whether it is gold, cocoa, timber, oil, bauxite, or diamonds. The story has been the same everywhere. This is predominantly to do with the fact that our value extraction ends at the point at which these resources leave our shores. Unfortunately, analysis undertaken over an extended period has shown that the largest increase in value occurs at exactly this point when it leaves our shores, where raw resources leaves the country and is converted into either refined products or monetizable securities. 500 times more gold is traded every day than is mined. Much of this happening in countries that have very little gold themselves. President Akufo-Addo is clear in his mind that to achieve a Ghana beyond aid, we must add considerable value to what we produce and trade with anyone. I saw one of the letters in which it talked about indecent haste and that there's no national emergency. If COVID is not a national emergency, I don't know what is. That there's a lot of, what do they call it? A lethal disadvantage to go to the stock market at this time. And this is the best time for the pricing of gold. I mean, if you don't take advantage of this, when else would you be able to? But I think, the issue that really was hurtful and made me discount the letter was when they ended saying that we are trying to stop elite capture, which essentially meant that we here are doing this for ourselves and we have some shares in that. So if that frames the mindset in which it was brought, it makes it really very difficult to see whether it is genuine or it's intended. Because you've seen us operate for 3.5 years, in which all we have done is to follow this Akufo-Addo plan to make sure that everybody benefits. And so to talk about elite capture was for me a very painful issue. The challenge for me, it's, the opposition has been aware of this transaction since 2018 and have been part of the discussions, negotiations, etc. I can only hazard that because it's close to elections, they may feel that there's a political advantage of some sort. But it's not hasty, it's not new. And I saw some of them in the committee discussions, so obviously in which they were supportive of all of that. So there must be a new element, and the only element I can see is 102 days away, when December 6th. And so, but they are doing their job as opposition, so we can do that.